Bonjour à tout le monde. Good morning to everybody. I understand that we have to start this info session at 9:15, and I'm now looking at which camera I can look in, so maybe you can see me. So I'm starting now. We're a bit late compared to the schedule. I thought we were going to start at 9:30. But I would like to welcome you to the info session on the action called Capacity Building in the Field of Youth. We are going to talk about the open call, so you can already send in your proposals now. So the open call 2021, as it is under the Erasmus Plus program. Again, welcome to this session. We are going to go through the whole morning, giving you a lot of very practical information about what to do if you're interested in applying for the Capacity Building in Youth Action. And I will use the abbreviation when I talk CBY. This is what we call it internally, and it's much easier to say than the very long name it has otherwise. My name is Lene Meyer. I'm working in the Executive Agency for Education and Culture. I want to give you a very warm welcome here from Brussels. So we are located in Brussels. I'm here with my colleagues. We are working in the unit where we do Erasmus Plus youth actions, what we call the centralized actions, and among them this international action, CBY. And we also do Solidarity Corps, the European Solidarity Corps in our unit. We will have a break halfway through in this session, and I have colleagues around me, so we will change in between the different subjects which we are going to take on board with you. So different colleagues will present different subjects. Again, welcome to all of you. So this is the agenda we have for this morning. I'm going to say a few words about what we're going to do, and also about the call itself, because beyond the coronavirus and whatever we're struggling with in Europe and in the world at the moment, also 2021 is a special year for the Erasmus Plus program, and it's certainly a special year for the capacity building activities, and I'm going to talk shortly about that in the introduction. Then my colleague from the Director General for Education from the Youth Unit, Fabienne, will talk about youth policy priorities, and after that all my colleagues in the team will give you a very hands-on introduction to how you can prepare your application and how you, in the end, hopefully will be able to submit it to us so we can evaluate it. At the end of the session, we will have a question and answer part, and there you are able to send in questions. I'm just changing to the next slide, and here you will see the third point on this slide. You can still send questions, I think, to this mail, our youth functional mailbox, EAC, youth, and then what you see there on the screen. Now, just some practical issues, because this is normally what we know that you are going to ask about after the session. So we will make the PowerPoint slides available, so you can download them and study them in peace wherever you are. And also we record the session, and normally we are making the recording available. So this is also going to be handled just after this session. Again, the questions, you can still ask questions to our functional mailbox, also regarding what we are going to talk about in this session, if you have anything additional that you want to ask about, and if you haven't already asked your questions. Now, I have also put on this slide the link to the funding and tenders portal, because that is important that you go in and look at this funding and tenders portal, because that's where all the application forms are, and that's where you're going to submit your application. And this is new this year, and this is new for this program period, that all the programs in the EU Commission, we've been harmonized, so to speak. So all our programs have now been put on the funding and tenders portal. And it's via this portal that you need to submit your application. And we will talk about this in this session. Now, just a few introductory remarks, because there are some issues which are maybe not so transparent in terms of the capacity building this year, so the international actions under Erasmus Plus, and what is happening with the capacity building youth open call 2021. Now, we have tried our best to make an international action available to youth organizations across EU member states and for all the Erasmus Plus program countries. This hasn't been easy because, as you may know, politically the budget for what this new programming period, which runs from 2021 to 2027, was approved very, very late in 2020, and we had quite a number of issues in order to get something ready to be put into the Erasmus Plus program for 2021 in terms of an international activity. In the end, we succeeded, so you will see that in the Erasmus Plus annual work program, if you look it up, that you have the capacity building youth action in there, and we are very proud that we are able to present this action to you. But there are some specific issues. So what we have also done during the last year is that we have adapted to new IT tools. That comes with having to go via the funding and tenders portal and doing things the more standardized way as we do it, as we would like to do it within the Commission. So all our application forms have been standardized and so on. And it's an important task in this info session to talk about these practical issues of how the new IT tools look like and how the new application forms look like. Now, for the capacity building youth exercise this year, there also is a couple of specific issues in terms of substance which are different from previous year. First of all, and you cannot see this in the annual work program of Erasmus Plus, but you can see it on the cover page of the funding and tender portal, where you will find the capacity building youth call. There you can see that the regional coverage is different from what it has been for CBY in previous years. So in previous years, we covered the whole world more or less, but we have this year been limited to only 2 regions in the world. So the capacity building youth exercise will only cover the Western Balkan countries and the SMED countries. So the SMED countries are the North African and the Middle East countries. And these are the only countries which you can only do partnership with organizations from these countries. So it's Bosnia-Herzegovina, Albania, and Kosovo. In the Western Balkan countries, the exact country coverage will come later. I'm sure my colleagues are much better in telling you what countries are covered, but the SMED coverage, it's like Tunisia, Jordan, Egypt and so on in the North African and Middle East countries. So these are the only regions of the world that we are covering this year. Secondly, the composition of the partnership has been changed. So for this year, 2021, the coordinator of a CBY project can only be an organization coming from the Erasmus Plus program countries. So this was slightly different in the past, but this year an action can only be led by an organization coming from an Erasmus Plus program country. This is very important to note. So it's only organizations from Erasmus Plus program countries which can apply for this call this year. Now, many of you will say, well, we have specific features of the CBY for 2021, and this is how it is. What will happen in the future? Well, we don't know this at the moment, and it will only be clear during the year, so we're not going to talk about it. There is political pressure, but we in the executive agency, we don't really have anything to do with that, but there is political pressure for how the new international dimension, which will be fully rolled out in 2022, how that will look like, and that is still going on, that political process. So we don't know what the future will show for the international actions under the Erasmus Plus yet. And that counts also for the CBY action. What we do know, though, is that the budget this year is 8 million. So I talked about the regional coverage before, and I would like to underline, and it doesn't say it in the same way in the Erasmus Plus annual work program. In the Erasmus Plus annual work program, it says that we have 16 million for the capacity building youth exercise this year. That's not the case anymore. We only have 8 million, and of these 8 million, 3 million will go to the Western Balkan region, and 5 million will go to the SMED region. So this is the budget envelope that we are working with this year. You can understand in the way that I talk and the way that I present this that we have been under quite a lot of strain and quite a lot of time pressure to put out something in the field for which you can apply, and things have actually changed until quite recently. You will see on the cover page, on the funding and tenders portal, that we have put in more information about this call as recently as in the beginning of May. So it's important that you go to the funding and tenders portal and look at all the updated information there in order to understand how you can apply for the CBY action this year. So again, this is what I wanted to say in the beginning. Welcome very much to this information session, and I hope you will get something useful out of it. I'm now going to give the word to my colleague, Fabienne, who will talk a bit about the youth policy context. So, Fabienne, welcome.
Hello, good morning. I'm head of sector for youth policy in the DG Education and Culture in the European Commission. The unit where I work is in charge of the general implementation of the Erasmus Plus Youth chapter and of the European Solidarity Corps, and also of following up the EU Youth Strategy, which is the general cooperation frame for cooperation in the youth policy field. So I would like to give you a few elements of context, in particular regarding the Erasmus Plus program. On this slide, you can see the main priorities of the new generation of Erasmus Plus, which is actually very much in line with the big priorities of the European Union. So, of course, the new program, we really aim at making it as accessible as possible, as inclusive as possible. So really reaching out to young people from diverse backgrounds, from many different possible NGOs, to have really, to reach, you know, the goal of having 10 million beneficiaries for the Erasmus Plus program 2021-2027. You will see also that the new program has a stronger green dimension, not only because, of course, we will try to support as much as possible projects having this green, this environmental dimension, but also because we will also have incentives to make the projects as low carbon impact as possible. Another very strong focus of the new program is digital, and with the year that we've been through all together, we have seen how much it is important to develop digital skills, also important to support digital youth work, for instance. So this will be also another priority of a future Erasmus, of a new Erasmus. And last but not least, youth participation in democratic life. This is something which is very strong in the European treaties, that the EU should encourage participation of young people in democratic life. We have that now as a specific action under the new Erasmus Plus, and of course all the activities of Erasmus Plus youth chapter will have also this strong focus. So to come more specifically on Erasmus Plus Youth, the two main objectives of the program are really to support, encourage individual mobility and participation of young people, but also to promote cooperation between organizations. And you can see on the right-hand side of the slide that the budget for this has never been so high. We have been allowed to have a 26 billion euros program, budget, for the Erasmus program for the whole period, from 21 to 27, and around 10% of that will be allocated to the youth strand of Erasmus Plus. Just a few words also about the policy background of all this. These priorities that I've presented from the Erasmus Plus are also very much the priorities of the European Frame for Cooperation in the Youth Field. We have 3 core areas that we try to promote with different tools among the member states. Engage, connect, empower. Engage is very much for fostering youth participation in democratic life. And again, there we have also the Erasmus Plus program. Connect, we are trying to support and to promote social engagement, solidarity, cross-border mobility. And of course, for that, we have the Erasmus Plus program, but we also have a European Solidarity Corps, which is really very much about promoting volunteering and solidarity activities of young people. And we've seen a lot of these great examples throughout the COVID crisis. So we know that young people are really eager to engage. And the third main objective of the European Union strategy for youth is empower, which is really trying to promote youth work as a way to empower young people all over Europe. So these are the main objectives of the strategy. You can see more on our youth portal, which is also a very great tool to inform young people about all different opportunities. And now I will pass the floor back to the colleagues of the executive agency in order to inform you much more about the capacity building youth goal. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Fabienne. Welcome to all the participants to this info session. My name is José Gutiérrez. I'm the head of sector for youth in the executive agency. Following the presentation from my colleagues Lene and Fabienne, we are entering now into the practical aspect of this information session, and I invite you to fasten your seatbelt. It is going to be very intensive because there are a lot of things to explain. Not so much on the content of the action with which you should be familiar. It's a continuation of the CBY that existed in the previous generation of Erasmus Plus, with some changes that Lene has already addressed partially, but mainly because we are using a new tool, and Lene refers to that also. I want to reassure you, it's like buying a new car and discovering what you can do with it and how it functions. I think that in its wisdom, the agency has chosen the oldest head of sector to present this, because if I manage to understand how the tool functions, I think any young applicant for the action should do it also. So don't be afraid, it's new. I'm sure that my colleagues will and myself, we will introduce you to this new tool as well as to the new aspects of capacity building, and that at the end of this session, by 1 o'clock, you will be fully experienced and ready to introduce and to start preparing your application. The presentation will involve three of our colleagues in the unit, starting with Christelle Phillips, and then Geneviève Sauve and Claudia Mondino and myself. Claudia is not following the session with us here in the conference center. She's in quarantine, and many of us are suffering the same situation when we travel in this troubled period. So we will start now with the general background, priorities, and objective of the action before entering into the content, or also into practical examples given by Geneviève. I invite now Christelle to take the floor to present you the overall background of capacity building youth in the context of Erasmus Plus. Christelle.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christelle Phillips, Project Officer of the CBY Capacity Building in the field of youth action. In this part, I will present the background, the priorities, and the objectives of this specific action. The program is built as a pyramid, and the envelope, the total envelope, represents, as Fabienne said before, around 26 billion euro. In the first key action 1, which concerns 75% of this envelope, concerns the mobility and having a direct impact on individuals. The key action 2, it's for the cooperation partnership, and we have the capacity building in the field of youth action, which concern the impact on the organization. And finally, we have the key action 3, with the EU Youth Dialogue, the Youth Wiki, and the European Youth Together, which have the impact on the systems. Background. Key Action 2, cooperation among organizations and institutions. CBY is situated within the Key Action 2, and the context consists of exchange of good practice, and it's financed by external cooperation in favor of youth. The impact of youth project will be analyzed by the impact on the partnership.
The Key Action 2 provides grants for a wide variety of action aimed at stimulating innovative policy development, policy dialogue, and implementation, and the exchange of knowledge in the field of education, training, and use. Under the CBY, they aim to support the international cooperation and policy dialogue in the field of youth and non-formal learning, as a driver of sustainable socio-economic development and well-being of youth organizations and young people. Project should focus on one or more of the following thematics areas: the politic participation and dialogue with decision makers, the inclusion of young people with fewer opportunities, the democracy of rule and law and values, the empowerment, the engagement, and the employability of young people, and also the peace and post-conflict reconciliation, the environment, climate, the anti-discrimination and gender equality, and finally the digital and entrepreneurial skills. The general objectives of capacity building. The target is put on the partner countries, but of course, if you are a program country, you will also develop your capacity. We also focus on needs, young people not in education, employment, and training. This is very important, and we try to focus on that. While there is some cause for hope of, unfortunately, COVID-19 pandemic, I don't need to tell you that this had a profound effect on the youth sector. This year, boosting the recovery of the youth sector from the pandemic remains an important objective of the call, both in terms of the organization active in the youth sector and the young people you serve. Of course, given the world we believe in today, in terms of collaboration between partners and engagement with youth, it is important to be mindful of the environmental context and to consider the digital or green solution to problems. The specific objectives of CBY and thematics area. This is very important to familiarize yourself with the specific objectives of the call. As you will see later, they are very important elements of the award criteria. As much as possible, you should include the different specific objectives and thematic areas, as the political participation and dialogue, but also the inclusion of young people from fewer opportunities, to encourage democracy, rule and law, different values, but also support empowerment, engagement and employability of young people, protect environment and combat climate change, support anti-discrimination and gender equality, and develop the digital entrepreneurial skills. Don't forget, here it's a view of the horizontal aspects, and the conception is 4 horizontal priorities that should be present during the lifetime of your project. With these actual circumstances, we suggest more communication tools than mobility, of course. Also, the results should be made available as an open educational resources. The proposal will describe how data, materials, documents, audiovisual and social media activity produced will be made freely available and promoted through the open license and does not contain disproportionate limitation. Then the first point is the environmental sustainability, which designed in an eco-friendly view. The inclusion and diversity promote equal opportunities. The digital dimension promote virtual and blended learning, and the common values, civic engagement and participation, support active citizenship and development of social and cultural competencies. Specific of this call, as Lene have said before, the envelope for the CBY Action this year is 8 million euro. Split with 3 million euros for the Western Balkans and 5 million for Region 3 South Mediterranean countries. To apply, you need to have a minimum of 4 organizations from at least 3 different countries. Minimum 1 organization from 2 different program countries, and 2 organizations from at least 1 eligible partner country. I give you an example. You can have one organization from program country, example Italy, another from program country France, and 2 organizations from partner country. Example, Tunisia and Albania, but you can also have 2 organizations from Albania or 2 organizations from Tunisia. But the minimum number of organizations is 4. The applicant can only be a partner country. Program country. Partner countries are not eligible as applicants. And the number of organizations from program countries cannot be higher than the partner countries. Then you cannot have 3 program countries and 4 partner countries. The duration of the project can be 1, 2, or 3 years. This is also new from 2021. And the minimum grant of a project is 100,000, and the maximum is 300,000. I give the floor to José Gutiérrez. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Christelle. 2 aspects to take out of Christelle's presentation. First of all, the projects are embedded in an overall context of the program, but also of the policy. In terms of program, the fact that it's a key action 2 action targeting organizations is one important element. The international dimension that Christelle also underlined is crucial here, because this action is funded by the budget of the external cooperation of the EU. So the 26 billion euros for the overall program needs to be increased still, with around 3 billion euros that will be provided for actions such as capacity building in the field of youth, but also Jean Monnet, or capacity building in the field of higher education. So bear in mind that your project is not standing alone. It has to be inscribed in these horizontal priorities and these important dimensions that Christelle has underlined. And then the second element are the novelties. I understand that for the target country, the partner countries targeted by this call, it could be frustrating to see that the coordination is in a program country, while in the last few years, the Western Balkans and Tunisia in particular, organizations could coordinate projects. Please remember that the action, as it was under the previous program, capacity building youth, ACPALA, was an action which was coordinated, whose projects were coordinated in Europe. So when launching this new action, and although we understand that, as I said, it could be frustrating for these the organizations from these 2 regions, we follow the same approach that it was the one for ACPALA. I'm not saying that this will stay for the 7 years. I hope even that for the development and the capacity building of this organization in the partner countries concerned, that we can move again or go back to the situation which was the one until 2020. So that's all for the introduction. Now we're going to look at 4 examples of projects that were funded in the 2 last selection of capacity building, not with an objective to say these are the best projects or you should follow the same route, but rather to try to extract from these 4 examples some aspects that are still relevant for you and on which you could also take some expertise and some learning for preparing your new proposal. So I will give the floor now to Geneviève Sauvé, who is going to present these 4 projects. Geneviève, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. As José mentioned, we selected 4 past projects from 2019 and 2020 to give you an idea and to help you write your next application. We selected 2 from the Western Balkans, 1 from Albania and from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and 2 from South Med, Tunisia. They were indeed very good application packages, and they gave us all the information required to be selected. The first one from Albania is very good as it has a good international dimension with 8 partners from program countries and Western Balkan countries. They also have 8 activities. Each activity takes place in all the partner countries. The activities are from capacity and also mobility activities, and the deliverables and outputs were clearly detailed. The activities were designed according to the main objective of the CBY program, and their work program was well structured and involved young people with fewer opportunities. In the application form, the applicant explained that through needs analysis done prior to drafting the project application, they identified issues they wanted to concentrate on. The issues were identified through online questionnaire, interviews, and focus groups conducted by the applicant and the partners. Then findings were discussed during an online meeting with the partners. This allowed them to set their objective and reflect on EU priorities. Now, where did the idea come from for the project? Well, it was a result of previous projects and training courses done together. In the application form, the applicant listed all previous activities, objectives, and the result, which then led to this new project. Now, I don't know if you already downloaded the application form, but this year, to summarize your project, the application form is divided in sections: relevance, quality of the project and the partnership, impact, activities, and work packages of your project. So I think it is important for you to familiarize yourself with the award criteria in order to help you define your activities and elaborate on your work packages. It may be clear for you at the moment what your activity and your project will be about, but sometimes it's difficult to actually put it in writing. The next project here is from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also a very good application. And the, excuse me, the beneficiary is a recurrent beneficiary from Bosnia and Herzegovina. They too identified the aims of the project, the objective, and who will be involved. They plan to implement 6 activities, all taking part in the different country of the partners. They will have study visits, large-scale youth events, 2 training courses, and they all will be linked to dissemination events or activities. They plan to have 79 participants, including 80% with fewer opportunities. Also, prior to the call, the applicant did an internal need analysis with 22 of its member organizations. They are organizations in the youth field and from different profiles, size, and capacities. Once their aims were identified, they were able to detail the objective and link them to the CBY priorities. Again, where did the idea come from? Well, they, during previous activities involving the partners and the coordinator of the project, throughout non-formal education, mobility, and exchange of experience and knowledge, they then brainstormed and identified issues they wished to tackle. They came up with a strategic method to undergo a new project and send a strong application package because it was clear for them what they wanted to do. In the application package, they detail each of the activity, describing ideas behind each one of them. They gave an indication of timeline, venue city, budget forecast, plus they connected each of the activity with the expected impact on target groups. The application was strong as it covered all aspects we expected. Now I will give example from South Med, where the applicant was Tunisia. Here as well, the objectives, the target groups, and goal were clearly expressed. The partnership involves 6 countries, involving 124 participants, with 70% of them with fewer opportunities. The work package with 7 activities covered a large international dimension as countries from South Med were represented, Western Balkans, and program countries. Here, I will not emphasize on the relevance and quality of the project, but more on the quality of the partnership and the impact. First of all, the partnership was extremely well balanced. As mentioned, it showed an important international dimension and showed strong skills to implement the project. For each of the partners, the applicant identified their mission, their goals, their experiences, past projects, and main accomplishments. They all had knowledge of the subjects that they wanted to tackle. Therefore, they already had solid ground to work on. The application identified every partner's role in the project and mentioned previous cooperation. Furthermore, expenses and distribution of the budget was also clearly explained through the financial plan, showing that it was going to be well balanced between the partners. For us, it was easy to measure the risk assessments and have a clear picture of who is involved in the consortium. Now, as for the impact, the applicant detailed the dissemination events and production, describing also their expectation on each of the activities, identifying who will benefit from the activities and what the participants will gain from it all. They also expressed the necessity to continue afterwards as they expect to have a long-term effect. The dissemination strategy was well presented and had all the essential elements to be successful and included EU funding publicity. Please do not neglect this aspect. Now, for the last one here from Tunisia, it's probably a top application as it presented all the necessary elements to have a complete application package. The aims, the objective, the activities, target groups, dissemination plan, cost effectiveness, partnership, participant, risk management, monitoring strategy were all detailed in a structured and elaborate manner. 9 partners from countries from the South Med, Western Balkans, program countries were presented. 132 participants are included in the activities, with 70% with fewer opportunities. Again, the objective of the CBY actions were clearly identified and the work program was well described. It was well balanced between the work packages and they were all linked to each other. The activities are also consistent with the objectives. Mobility activities were corresponding to the CBY activities. Target groups and problems to be addressed were clearly identified. Each phase were carefully explained, detailing the implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and dissemination plan. The activities and methods proposed for each specific activities were detailed and realistic. The partnership is strong, competent, experienced, and the partners have worked together before. It is an added value to know your partners, to have worked with them before. The deliverables were realistic and the dissemination strategy was well presented. The communication strategy was well defined, reaching target audience and wider public. The expected impact is really good and will be measurable. They also clearly identified the expected costs and which partner would be responsible. They also indicated any possible risk. It is always good to foresee the unexpected. Here I've extracted part of their detailed description of projects to show you how they explain their project and identify their activities. Now, in the application form, it's mentioned that you need a minimum of 2 work packages. We suggest to have at least 3. You need a management work package, a dissemination work package, and then the activities work packages. As you can see, the 5 activities here are separated in work packages, identify with titles of the work package, subchapters are found in all of the work packages. In the detailed description, they explain in great detail each step for each of the work package, linking them to the objective, milestone, partners' participation, the dissemination plan, and the deliverable and cost effectiveness. When you fill the section concerning your work packages, make sure it's well structured, which format you're going to use. Give it a name or a title, link it to a budget line, make sure that we understand the core of it, and make sure to identify the deliverables. As I mentioned before, you might have a clear picture in your head about your project, what it will look like. When you put it in writing, it's different. So pay attention to everything, all the steps, all the categories it will touch, who will do what, when, where, and how. Be clear, be consistent, be relevant, and complete every little detail you need in order to have a successful package. Don't forget anything. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Geneviève. Examples, 4 examples. I'm not saying these are the best project, but we wanted to show you, on the one hand, in the construction of the project, in the aspects they address, they are certainly relevant for this call also. And the second aspect, which is more a practical one on which Geneviève has been insisting, is the structure of your project, based on work packages, based on deliverables, based on milestones. This will be the main novelty in the design of your project, but also in the way it will be funded. So I invite you to pay particular attention to this aspect of structuring your project in work packages. We will come back to that on several occasions during the presentation, but after having looked at the new forms, at the new action, the new tools, I would certainly say that there lies the capacity for any applicant to convince the experts on the one hand and convince the agency also of the solidity of the project. So bear in mind this notion of work packages, deliverables and milestones, on which we will come back very soon. I'm now going to give the floor to Claudia. As I said, she is in quarantine at home, not with us here, so I cross finger that this will work. I will invite Claudia to take the floor. I think that we need to move the slides on her behalf, so I will stay in front of the screen and move the slides. So, Claudia, do you hear us, and can you take the floor?
I can hear you, and I hope you can hear me. Can you confirm?
We can hear you.
Perfect. So let me start by thanking the technical service who's making something that for me is almost magic, allowing me to join a conference from my sleeping room, actually. And I want to start my speech concerning the application, so the technicalities, the administrative part of your application, by using the sentence that a colleague suggested me and has become my mantra. It is not difficult, it is new. You have survived, those of you who have already applied in previous years, you have survived e-reports, you learned how to use them, you will learn how to use this. It's just a matter of getting used to. There are advantages because this is a part, this is part of a standardization and harmonization of the tools all across the Commission. Is another advantage that I can see is that everything is embedded in the same e-form. Therefore, everything comes from the same tool. You don't have to cross-check things. It's everything in the same place. And there is a technicality that I will show you afterwards. You can edit your application even after the submission, as long as it is before the deadline. So from the technical point of view, there are advantages. There are also disadvantages. The first one is that this is a corporate tool. It's not customized for our action. There are things that might not match perfectly as it was the case before, so we will learn how to do with something which is not designed for CBY. And more importantly, according to my experience, is that we used to have in the previous e-forms a lot of validations and neutralizing the eligibility criteria. It will not be the case anymore, so I start now, but I will repeat it afterwards as well, to tell you that it's important that you stick to the respect, read, know, to the eligibility criteria and exclusion criteria, which are in the program guide. I think you need to change the slides. I don't think I can do it myself. Great. Where to start? Let's say that you have never even tried to reach the funding and tenders portal. Then you go to Google, you write in the search place funding and tenders portal. It will be the third or the fourth of the results. You click and you reach exactly this screen. In this screen, the blue side is the list of all the actions and programs which are available for applications. You click one of them and then you will go in. But I want to show you that on the bottom of the screen, you will see that there are 5 steps. Find an opportunity, find partners, create an account, register your organization, and submit your proposal. Of course, before submitting your proposal, you have to prepare your proposal. But this is exactly the big blocks of the activities that you will need to do. Find your opportunity means find the funding scheme that you're interested in. If you're following this info day, I guess that you are interested in CBY, we're very happy. You will find the CBY by clicking on Erasmus Plus program, and then, exactly, thanks. And then looking for our action, which is not, wait that I go through myself on the other side. Okay. You can find it with writing capacity building. You can find it in the topics. Within the program, you can just scroll down the list of actions that are available and you will find it. You can click on the capacity on the link and prepare and let's say click on grants, and you will enter the the application form. But before you enter the application form, there are some steps that need to be done. First of all, and before even thinking of a project, start by reading the program guide. Read the relevant pages to the relevant actions you're interested in. Read the common pages at the beginning. Know what you're applying to. Know which are the criteria for eligibility, for selection. Try to match the spirit of the call and the requirements of the call. Second, read the online manual. The online manual is a technical manual. It refers to the technicalities of the application itself, to the documents, to the fields to be filled in, to their formats. So it's from one side in the program guide, you know the content, you know the requirements for the content of your application. And on the online manual, you have the suggestions, requirements, guide for the, let's say, practical, technical use of the forms themselves. This admissibility criteria and eligibility criteria are written in the program guide. I just summarize them here because it's important that you know them, and I will tell them now, I will read them now, because some of them are neutralized, but some are not. So, for example, you will not be able to submit an application after the deadline, of course. You will not be able to thanks. You will not be able to submit a longer application than the 120 pages that is the maximum allowed. I will probably retell it afterwards, but I tell it now. 120 pages is the maximum limit, which is on the total of your application. If you are, let's say, a previous client, you know that we used to have limits, character limits per chapter. It's not the case anymore. Now the limit is only on the whole length of the application. There's a minimum number of participating organizations. Christelle talked about this on their geographical distribution, but these informations, for example, are not neutralized as it was the case before. So in the previous years, you might have added I don't know, a wrong number of partners or from wrong regions, not eligible regions for your application, and you would receive an error message. It is not the case anymore. So you risk to be able to submit an ineligible application if you don't read and know the eligibility criteria as they are written in the program guide. It's frustrating for you, but also for us, because we know how much work is behind an application. When we have to declare ineligible applications that have been submitted, please don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to us. Read the eligibility and admissibility criteria and respect them in order to have the chance to really compete for your funding. Another thing that you need to do before submitting the application is to have a clear idea of your partners, who's you're gonna work with for the implementation of the activities. There's a tool in the funding and tender portals. There's a button that you see the screen on my slide. There's a possibility to search partners. The tool works in the two directions. If you have a project and you are looking for partners, it works. If you are an organization and you're looking for a project to work with, it works as well. So if you need to increase your number of partners, or if you need a special partner with the specific characteristics and you couldn't find it. This is an interesting tool. You can use it. It's user-friendly and very easy to work with. Two more technical requirements before you can really start with your application. One is that you need to create the EU login account. Many of you already have it because we already started to exchange information, to send the notification letters directly to the portal, so it's not completely new. It's a basic creation of a profile where you have a password and a username. Just one detail, please consider that this gives access to your application, and therefore keep the access personal. Don't share it necessarily with everybody, because at a certain point you could lose the control on your application. As every password and every username, change the password regularly. It's basic use of basic bon sens. So you have to have this login account, and you have to have for all the participating organization the identification code, which is called PIC. Next slide, please. The PIC is a 9-digit number that you receive once your organization is registered in the portal, in the portal itself. It's not new. We have been working with this at least in the last 7 years, I think. So all, let's say again, usual clients have them. Just a detail which has not changed before, comparing to before. When you create a PIC for an organization, you can use it directly. You don't need to wait for the PIC to be validated. The validation of the PIC is part of the administrative procedure for organizations part of selected projects. So you don't need to worry now, you don't need to bother now. Just register your organization, and please, when you register the organization, just check through the search bar, so very basically, that your organization is not already registered, because we have a proliferation of PICs, and as the PIC is an identification code, so each organization only have one identification code, it's useless to create new ones that will not be validated, that actually will not be necessary. Just use the ones which are available. And once everything is done, you can start your submission. The document, let's say the e-form, is conceived more or less in the same way as it was the case before. You have an A part, which is the administrative part. The administrative part is created by encoding the PIC of the organizations that will participate, and can be modified. In this A part, you have to decide as well for the contact people, and you can give different roles to these contact people. Then there's a part B, which is the description of the action and the budget. These are documents that are available in the screen of the part A. On the left side of the page, there's a box, a blue box, which says download part B, exactly where the mouse is showing now. And you download a zip file, and in the zip file you have two documents. One is the template of the budget, and one is the template for the description of the project. Again, this doesn't change much compared to what it used to be before, because our previous e-forms used to work in the same way. you can add, where are we here? Yes. Some other information, as I told you before, you can, wait, okay, just, you have some let's say, limit characters to respect. Everything is written in the form itself. Sometimes it's enough to read before trying and being frustrated. So this is, let's say, already a tip. A good thing that is linked to this previous slide is that once you created the part A, and even before your application is fully completed or even submitted, you receive an email. The email shows the link to go back to the application straight away. So if you save this email in your mailbox, it will be super easy to go back directly to the email without going through the look for the program, look for the portal, for the program, for the action, for your application. There's once you will have your EU login account, you will find all your applications in the same tab of your account. So it's easy also if you pass by there, but the easiest and fastest way is to receive, to keep the mail you received and use it to access directly to your application. Remember that according to the role that you attribute to the contact people in the other partner organizations, they might receive and have access to the e-form as well. So the contact people indicated as coordinator or participant contact of the other partner organizations will have access to the e-form. For sure, for let's say, might be useful in case the partners let's say for a shared exercise, but might require an additional effort of coordination from the partners' point of view. And I think this is everything. You add the partners using the PIC. That is why I told you before that creating the PIC of the organization is something to be done before, but then it's user-friendly and quite intuitive as thing. Remember that the partners should belong to the eligible regions, so only southern neighborhood, meaning North Mediterranean countries and Western Balkan countries are eligible as partners, while only the EU member states plus the program countries are eligible as applicants. This is not neutralized by a validation. Take care. Do it for yourself, do it for us. Don't put us in the situation of making too many applications ineligible. As I told you at the beginning, a very interesting tool, a very interesting technical tool that we have is the editing part. Every time you need to edit something, you just click on the link you received by email and you edit the forms. When you click on the edit forms, this yes, you arrive in a table of contents that summarizes the part A of your application. It contains the general information, the title, the language, the summary, all these things. It contains the list of the participants where you can add affiliated partners, where you can change or add some information, and it contains the budget. Very important. Don't start by filling in the budget in this Part A administrative template. This budget information is just a summary of the amount per attributed per partner, and needs to be based on the part B, which is the annex budget. The annex budget, you will see, it's quite complicated, quite demanding. Start by filling in and being sure that whatever is in the annex is the correct amounts and structure and attribution of your grant request, and only then fill in the summary, let's say, these 3 amounts plus total, which are necessary to be completed in the part A. This is the general information. Some fields are automatically retrieved from the part where you created your application. Some others need to be filled in. Remember, every time you fill in something, not only to save, but in some cases to apply and then save. So in some cases you have 2 buttons. One, first of all, you apply, you modify, and then you save the modifications. Again, it's not difficult, it's just new. We're maybe not used to this procedure, but it's perfectly intuitive once it's clear that it's requested. We don't have, another good point, a declaration of honor as an external file anymore. The declaration of honor is filled in by checking all the relevant spaces in the declarations of the part A, and will be automatically submitted with the application itself. It's compulsory. You will not be able to submit without filling in this part. Part 2, as I told you, there are 3 parts in this, let's say, table of contents. The sun is, sorry, the time is, weather is changing a lot here in Brussels, so sometimes I'm blinded by the sun. Participants are already filled in. The list of participants is automatically retrieved from your first screen of the submission when you create your application, but you can edit each of them. You must, in some cases, add some information which were not added at the first step. If you need to add some affiliated entities, it's the place where to do it. Affiliated entities might be let's say the legal entities that have a capital legal link with one of the other partners, or it can be entities that are can be identified as a whole for the project itself. Everything is very legal and administrative complicated, but it's very clearly explained in the Article 122 of the financial regulations. Again, Google is your friend. Article 122, if you need to add affiliated entities. By the way, don't mix affiliated entities and associated partners. Associated partners are not eligible. Affiliated entities could be if they respect the same eligibility criteria of the other partners, and if there's a reason why. Then you have, let's imagine that everything is ready. You can validate your form. You might have, let's say, errors after the validation, but I take the opportunity here to show you that you will have a full list of annexes. As I told you, this is not a customized version of an e-form, so the list of annexes is not completely relevant for our action. There are 2 annexes which are compulsory for our action. One is the budget and one is the project descriptions. Both of them are downloadable as part from the e-form and are in the part, let's say, make the part B of your applications. All the other annexes that might be listed there are not relevant. Don't waste your time adding CVs and stuff. As they are not relevant, whatever document will be uploaded in this as annex using the other buttons will not be taken in consideration. So don't do it. It's not worth it to waste time for annexes which are not required. The validation will give you error messages, which are listed. If you are if you can validate just because you want to check if everything that you wrote is complete and respects the fields and everything is there. So that you can just click on the error messages that you receive and go back to the fields that are missing or that are not respecting the format. You can save and close your application without any problem and go back to it. I see that I think this is it for the moment. I will come back for the budget details in a few minutes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Claudia. We are going a little bit beyond schedule, and I want to apologize to all of you. We will now have the last part of the morning with the presentation of the 4 award criteria before having a break. So I give the floor now to Christelle to present the 4 award criteria. Christelle.
Here we are for the award criteria. Then the application will be evaluated with the following scheme. We will give you, we will attribute 20 points for the impact, 20 also for the quality of the partnership and cooperation arrangements, and then 30 points for the relevance of the project and 30 points for the quality of the design and implementation. Here I would like to give a small explanation, especially for the impact. It's only 20 only. It's an important part, but it's 20 points. But it's I think the most important part for the end of the project, the evaluation of the project at the end of the implementation. You have the threshold for the funding. You must have a minimum of 60 points for the overall application, and minimum pass the score of 50%. In each award criteria, then a minimum of 10 points for the impact, minimum of 10 points for the quality of the partnership and cooperation, a minimum of 15 points for the relevance, and a minimum of 15 points for the quality of the project design. It's very essential how the expert will be evaluated for your profile, then pay attention on that. The relevance, it's 30 points, a maximum of 30 points. The proposal must be relevant to the call. Please pay attention also on the objectives. They must be relevant to the general objectives of the call, but also to address at least one or more of the specific objectives. You need to be smart. You need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. You must also be relevant. It must be also relevant for the participating organization and the chosen target groups. Pay attention to put the target groups before to draft your application. The proposal must be also innovative or and complementary to other initiatives already maybe carried out by the participating organization, in particular in partner countries. The capacity building activities must be clearly defined and aim at reinforcing the capacities of the partnership organization. And the project must involve young people with fewer opportunities. The quality of the project design and implementation, it's also 30 points. It's a big part of the project. The project should contain all appropriate phases, including the preparation, the implementation, the monitoring, and the evaluation of the project. Also, we draw your attention to the fact to prepare the application together with the partnership. This is very, very, very important. And to know how each other, maybe to have already collaborated. It's always better to work with somebody that you have already worked with than somebody that you don't know. Then pay attention when you choose your partnership. Also the methodology. Do the activity address the objectives? You have to reply to this question when drafting your application. Are the links between problems, need, and solution logical? Do I have sufficient quality control measures and indicators? You have to evaluate your project and monitor your project during the lifetime of your application. And what is my risk management strategy? Then keep collaboration between the partnership and not concentrate all the aspects to the coordinating organization. And also the project must be cost effectiveness. The budget's balance between the partners and yes, between the partnership, then the partners organization and the applicants. The quality of the partnership and the cooperation is 20 points. The experts, when it's external experts, when they will evaluate your application, they will keep an eye the fact that you have to have a strong partnership. The distribution of the responsibilities, a mix of complementary participating organization, with the necessary profile, the experience, the expertise to deliver a good project. Also, you have to coordinate and have a good communication between all the partners. When we contact the partners, we see that sometimes they never had been in contact with the applicant or with all the other partners before the application, or maybe sometimes before the signature of the grant agreement. Then this is very, very important to be in contact, to know your partners, and to draft the application together. The last award criteria is the impact, with a maximum of 20 points. For the impact on the participating organization is expected to be high. Organization must show to be capable of promoting EU values through the results of the project. The dissemination should include use, outreach, and show ability to communicate the needs, the ideas, and the solution of the target groups, and also the sustainability. The project should aim to broad networks and establish long-lasting cooperation at EU level. Here, for the dissemination, the materials, and the impact of the project, we will analyze. We will see if you expect to deliver some materials, some guide, some booklet, some flyers, but also where you will disseminate the results of the project, if you have a dedicated website, or if a website will be created for this dedicated project, but also on the networks, Facebook, Instagram pages. This is very, very important. The application form and the narrative part. You must give reply to all the questions of the section 1 to 3 of the part B, and cover all the subpoints of the award criteria and adapt them to the questions. The program guide must guide you in the reply to answer of part B. Then we have here on the left side the relevance of the project, the quality of the project and implementation, the quality of the partnership and the cooperation arrangements, and the impact. Please try to reply to all the bullet points under the different award criteria. And on part B, the technical description, this is relevant for the draft of your application. Again, the relevance, the different award criteria, relevance, quality, and impact. The application form, the narrative part. Please be relevant between your work program, your activities, and the budget. The expert will try to make a link between them. Be not repetitive, but clear and concise and straight to the point. Sometimes less is more. If you make short sentence, clear sentence, we directly be able to know what you want to present in your application. Do not use hyperlinks. We will not open them. If you want to show other information, you have to explain it in the application. Please do not delete any instruction in the document. The overall page limit has been raised to ensure equal treatment of the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christelle. We are, as I said, a little bit beyond schedule, 19 minutes late. We will maintain our break of 15 minutes, and we should therefore resume at 11 Brussels time. Just a couple of words on what has been said. You saw from Claudia's presentation that in reality, the new application modules embedded in the portal are quite self-explanatory. You will be driven to the different screens without any risk of losing your data. As Claudia said, this data can always be retrieved through the email that you will have received. For what Christelle told us just now, the award criteria remain the same, but it's important, as she said, to underline two aspects. The one in the project design, because I've already said it, but I repeat, the notion of the structure of your project in work packages will be crucial for assessing your proposal, but also defining the final grant that you may receive if you are selected. And the notion of impact, or the notion of deliverables results, because that's at the end of the day what will decide of the final grant awarded to your project. We will look, if you are selected, at when your project is finished, to the results achieved, to the deliverables that have been indeed implemented, and to the fact that all the work packages that you presented in your application were fully implemented, so that you deserve the complete grant that was proposed to your project. So I conclude here. We will continue in 15 minutes with a more technical aspect on the part B of the e-form and on the budget. I will invite my colleagues to go straight to the point, so that we can, and you can all go to lunch in a reasonable time, even if in Spain we could stay until 3 o'clock if we want. So I cut the mic now. We will resume, as I said, at 11:05. Thank you. Okay. Hello, colleagues. For those who have resisted this first hour and 2 hours almost for the first part, we are now going to move to the more technical part, or rather to the core of your proposal in terms of constructing your activities, your budget, and so forth. It's really a critical part. It's also a new part as compared to what were our application forms until last year. Claudia said it, and I think Lene also, we are using now a corporate tool, and then we are using, as a result, also corporate forms, which implies that sometimes we will have to tell you that some aspects in the e-form doesn't apply to you. You will see it in any case under certain sections where it's written not applicable or not relevant for the action. But there will be more than that, and we will try during these two presentations that I will share with Claudia to express exactly what we expect in your presentation. So, and after this presentation, hopefully Claudia and me, we will last most probably a little bit less than an hour, and then we will have a question of answering your questions. We have received a lot of questions already on the functional mailbox, so we will try to address them around 12 o'clock. A summary of what I was saying concerning the importance of organizing your project in work packages. As Geneviève said, in some documents you will see it's minimum 2. Why minimum 2? Because there is minimum 1 work package for the project management, and in principle a minimum 1 work package for your activities. What we recommend nevertheless is to have at least 3, because again it's very important to insist on the need to disseminate, on the need to make your project visible, on the need to have concrete result at the end of your project. And this is part of the impact, dissemination and sustainability work package. So these 2 are those that we expect to see in all applications. And then in the middle, we have the one which is there for the activity. So you can have one project which is very monothematic or mono activity oriented. So I will take an example. This is a project which aims exclusively to deliver training for youth workers according to a certain thematic area. So in the work package 2, I would put training, and I would describe all the activities related to this training, from the preparation to the development of the course material, to the delivery to the learners within this work package. But usually, and we saw it in the examples presented by Geneviève, projects have more than one main objective, more than one main deliverable, more than one grouping of activity or work package. We saw it in the presentation. There were conferences, there were training, there were seminars, there were development of course material. So you could then split these activities, if they don't belong to the same group, in work package 2, 3, 4, 5, and finally work package dissemination. Now, I'm saying work package for activities 2, 3, 4, 5. Bear in mind, and we will repeat that with Claudia, that each work package, for each work package, you will have to indicate your estimated budget. But even more than that, for each partner participating in the work package, there will be an estimated budget. As a result, taking a maximum, let's say that you have 3 work packages and you have 5 partners, 3 by 5 would make you 15 individual budget tables to summarize the cost for each of the partners and for each of the work packages. So it is important, I will insist, never insist enough, that your activity work package section is as coherent and synthesized as possible. Okay? Now let's go to the application form, the part B, and we enter immediately in the aspect related to the work package. So the first one here, we have identified it, or is identified already in the template, as project management and coordination. I invite you to read these instructions here because they are quite well written and they give you an idea of what we expect in terms of work packages. You will need to link your work packages to the objectives. Where is my mouse? Here. So you will say, to which objectives will this work package contribute? So the objective in this case for project management will be to deliver and implement the project in accordance with the timetable and in the full respect of the contractual constraints related to this type of project, in time and in quality, etc. So that's a generic objective. And you will describe here each of the tasks related to the project management. So task name, task description, and then which participant, and here already we are in the corporate terminology. Participants refers to a partner organization or organization involved in your partnership, not to individuals. So you will put here the name, and next to it you will put the role. As you can see, we have different roles. Coordinator, beneficiary stands for a partner, but you are not obliged to follow these codes. You can put the codes which are more relevant for you, but I'm just explaining this is coordinator, this is beneficiary for partner, this is associated partner, affiliated entity, excuse me, and associated partner and other. You write here what you consider more relevant for us. It's a free text area. Next column, you will have to say if this contribution, it's a contribution in kind or a subcontracting. I would not bother to invite you to write contribution in kind because in principle this will not be this will not be taken into account for your for the calculation of your lump sum. Nevertheless, if you believe that you need to indicate here that partner X or affiliated entity Y will contribute with no cost, then you will simply put in-kind contribution. If on the contrary, it is not an organization involved in the partnership as partner, coordinator or affiliated entity, you will have to put, and there are costs, you will have to say that this is subject to subcontracting, and we will see later on in the budget that there is a section specifically for subcontracting. Going down, work packages are built on milestones and deliverable. Milestones are not mandatory. It's not necessary for each of your work package to have a milestone. I would tend to say that the shorter the project, the less we expect to see milestones. But nevertheless, these projects can be up to 3 years, so they can be a critical moment. For instance, there is the time of the delivery of the training material that has been developed during the first year. This could be a milestone for the package training, for instance. Deliverables, also a very important aspect. Again, read all what is written here because it's quite clear about the type of deliverables, being them physical events like meetings, seminars, trainings, etc., or being practical material like manuals, toolkits, guides, reports. So I think these explanations are very well written and will drive you and allow you to walk around the application form. So milestones, the name, to which work package they refer, who will be the leader or the person controlling this milestone, usually the coordinator, but also a partner in charge of the particular work package concerned, description, and due date of the milestone. Quality assurance criteria, verification, which will be the indicators that will allow you to say, okay, the milestone has been achieved and fulfilled. You will have to describe it here. Deliverables, the same principle, their name, the work package they refer to, the organization who is in charge of delivering the result, the product. Then type of delivery and dissemination level. You will see in the template of Part B that you have a lot of codes here which are not hard-coded, so you can delete them, and they refer mainly to the research programs. You will see that in terms of dissemination, for instance, we have things related to security, to confidentiality. This doesn't apply to projects implemented in the context of CBY. So for the type, you will simply indicate what type of output it is, what type of deliverable. It can be training courses, materials, event, whatever. And here we invite you to use three levels of dissemination: a local level, national level, or European level. Again, this is not blocked, so if you put something else, try to be clear when you describe what is the level of dissemination. Due date and description, that is quite straightforward also. I move to the next slide. You will have to estimate the resources needed for each of your work package and for each of your participant. This is a summary table. I invite you to leave it aside after you have prepared your Excel budget. You can already here have an estimation. You can share that with your partner and say, okay, for partner X, these are the personal costs that are foreseen. This is the subcontracting that this partner will use in order to implement a certain number of activities, the cost for travel, the cost for accommodation, subsistence, equipment. All these categories correspond to the ones that appear in the budget table, in the Excel budget table. If you start filling them now, you may have to come back to them in order to align them perfectly with the figures that you will have put in your Excel table. As Christelle said, coherence will be crucial here. In several sections, there is a budget. So you have already seen with Claudia that in part A, there is a summary on the budget, and in part B, we have a summary of the budget, and in the Excel table, we have the detailed budget. So please, before you push the submission button, ensure that all data has been verified. It would be a pity if the expert, frustrated by the fact that 3 work packages were mentioned here, but only 2 were in the budget table and the figures are not correct, that the expert would say, okay, this project has not been seriously conceived, and this would penalize it. Maybe it was simply a clerical error not identified. So please do a thorough consistency check and verification of your application before submitting it. I continue with the work packages because there is still one aspect which is related to the work package and on which we want to have further information are the events, meetings, and the mobility. So here, for each event or for each large mobility, I would not say if you need to visit one of your partners, you need to put it here. These are big events that are relevant for achieving the objectives and delivering the project results. So for each event, you list them here. You introduce again the participant who will be the leader of this event, the name of the event, its type, its area, the location, the duration, and the total. Once again, all this information helps us and will help the evaluators to understand the construction. We are also doing capacity building, how your project has been built. Is it solid? Is it a solid building? Are all the foundations there? Are they coherent? Are they well described? So this is a crucial part which is new as compared to the application form some of you may have known until 2020. Finally, each work package, here we see task, but task 1 refers to work package 1. First task in the work package 1, second task in the work package 1, third, etc. So each task in each work package need to be put in a simple word table with up to 36 months, and you will describe or you will indicate the length during which this task will be prepared and delivered. Continuing with subcontracting, with the work plan, as I told you, when you had indicated somewhere this task in the work package will be delivered by subcontracting, we invite you here to identify it with more precision. You've got to tell us the subcontract name, in other words, the title of the subcontracting action, its description. So this would be a summary of the description. It's simply a name or an acronym or whatever you find it more relevant. The description of the subcontract, the estimated cost. The justification, I remind you, and I think that my colleagues have said it, the capacity building projects, the grant which is awarded is there to develop the capacity of the organizations, and we expect that these organizations have the necessary skills and competences to develop the project, and that they will learn by developing the project. If all the activities are subcontracted, then we miss the point, and we miss the essential objective of the action is to equip you and your colleagues, the youth workers, the youth, with the necessary skills. And that's why we want to control the subcontracting. I want already to answer questions that we have received. There is no ceiling in terms of maximum percentage of the budget dedicated to subcontracting. But I repeat, it will be seen by the experts and it will be assessed why is this task not delivered by the consortium when we can assume that the staff should have all the competences required to perform the work. So justification and best value for money. In principle, at this stage, you don't know, yes, the subcontractor name. If this is the case, you will most probably put it in the description, but you will simply say we will launch a tender according to the national legislation or according to the principle in our organization by which date and with which cost. Okay? Don't hesitate to always use free text sections. I go back to what Claudia said concerning the length of the proposal, Claudia and Christelle, 120 pages. It's largely enough to present your proposal. Don't believe that if you have a proposal of 100 pages, you will be discriminated or you will be assessed with a lower score than a project with 100 pages. On the contrary, don't try to put too much. Experts know that, they are experienced, they know that a project is repeating the same thing 10 times in order, like we say in French, the method coué, it's to repeat things to be sure, or the positive assertion, I think it's said also. Don't do it. It's irrelevant. It's better to have a synthetic proposal on let's say 70 pages than a proposal which is a lot of blah blah. Allow me to say it like that, out of 120 pages. This box in orange is important. Also the coordination in particular, but also the core task of the project should not be subcontracted. They've got to remain in the hands of the beneficiaries. I think I'm coming to the end of the presentation for part B. So for instance, this aspect on ethics is not relevant for capacity building. The same for security. These aspects are specifically relevant for research projects funded by the European Union. This being said, if by reading the text in italics, the explanation, you consider there is something on ethics, put it in. But in principle, our experts will not look at this. They may raise the attention of the agency. The applicant is saying the following things concerning ethics and security. The agency will have a look at that and will then decide on the appropriate measures to be taken if the proposal is selected, or even going back to you to obtain further information about the information provided in these two sections. There is another declaration. This is not the declaration in part A, as was presented by Claudia. It's a declaration on the fact that you are not submitting the same proposals, or that this proposal has not been funded yet by the European Union. So you simply will click here or indicate here yes or no. I think Claudia mentioned it also at the end, at the very end of Part B, you have the list of annexes. All these annexes, with the exception of the budget table and Part B, are not mandatory. So mandatory if required by the call, not applicable, or mandatory if required by the call. So the call doesn't require them. So our recommendation is don't send CVs, don't send your annual activity report, don't send your list of previous projects. These will not be taken into account by the evaluator in order not to favorize or penalize those that have or have not decided to go beyond what is mandatory in the form. So we will limit ourselves and we will limit the work of the experts to what is mandatory so as to treat all proposals on equal footing. I will end with this before giving the floor to Claudia. So I managed to keep it in almost 20 minutes. So Claudia will have 40 minutes now to explain the part, the Excel table and the budget. This is the main novelty in the approach for CBY as compared to 2020 and before, is that your grant will be awarded under the form of lump sum. So you are already familiar with the notion of unit cost. This is part of the simplified form of grants. The lump sum will be defined in accordance to the budget proposal, ensuring that we remain within 80% of your total estimated cost and that the grant is not higher than 300,000. But at the end of the day, if your project is selected, you will have one global amount, let's say 280,000. Which will be looked at the end of your project in accordance to your work packages and to your deliverables. So the principle of the lump sum is that the financial analysis will take place at application stage. So for you, it requires the presentation of a detailed budget. For us, it requires a thorough analysis of the reliability, the coherence, the cost effectiveness of this budget. But once the lump sum has been decided, we forget about finance. We will remember about finance if ever you don't deliver your results, if you don't implement your work packages, but it will not be linked to individual costs. It will not be linked to the fact that the travel to this part of Europe or of the partner country was higher than the unit cost allowed. We will not care about that. We will just care that, let's say that the work package was training, that the training that you had envisaged for X number of participants for the duration Y, with the expected learning outcomes for these participants, has indeed been delivered. If this is the case, you receive the lump sum in full. If this is not the case, the lump sum part corresponding to the work package could be either completely withdrawn or reduced proportionally to the volume of activities delivered. So this is really the important aspect. I want to be honest with you. It will be a novelty also for our agency to apply this approach, which has been put in place for the research projects for now several years successfully. So we will have to look at the application stage, how we will ensure this appropriateness of your budget. And more importantly, my colleagues will have to look in 2 or 3 years' time of the fact that all the promises in your applications have been delivered in order to confirm that the lump sum proposed for your project can be completely awarded to the beneficiaries. So I will stop here and I will give the floor now to Claudia in order to enter into the budget table. As I said, at 12 o'clock we should have a half an hour session dedicated to your questions, and we have already received many. Don't hesitate to continue sending them. We are piling them, collecting them so that we can answer them all thoroughly. Claudia, the floor is yours.
And I hope that, as before, everything works perfectly. So let's talk about this budget. And let me start again with a positive hint so that we take the whole exercise with some optimism. It's true that this budget is more complicated and more cumbersome than the one before, but whatever time and effort you put in doing this budget will be compensated at the end by a very easy, let's say, financial declaration at the end of the project. So take it with this approach and you will see that there will be, in the end, a positive result for all of us. So we are talking about a template which is available in the part B. So you go in your e-form, in the home page you have on the right left side of the screen a blue frame. Download B templates. You download them, it's a zip file, and within you'd find the template for the description of the project, done, and the template for the budget. The template for the budget is a very complicated Excel sheet. Let me spend 2 seconds to remind you that when you have a very complicated Excel sheet with references from different pages, automatic creation of tabs and additional pages, formulas and stuff, it's not worth that you try to force the formulas, that you try to unprotect it, that you send us a copy which is not the original one, because we will reject it. So don't do the effort. If you are stuck somehow for filling in this form, just contact us through the magic email that you already know and that is written everywhere in this presentation, and we will help you sort it out. As Jose already said, it's new for you, it's new for us. We will learn all together, but I can confirm that I tested and it works. It takes time, it's demanding, but it works. So, first of all, first step, as usual, read the instructions. The instructions are the first step of the first tab of the template. So there's here you have sort of 3 different images of what is in this first tab called instruction in the template. There's a list of instructions, real instructions, and there is a list of fields that need to be filled in so that their content is mirrored in the other pages, in the other tabs of the template. You need to fill in the maximum amount for the EU contribution, that is 300,000 euros for this year. You need to fill in the co-financing rate, which is 80%. These are information that are available both in the tool under the topic, but come from the legal basis, which is the program guide. You insert the acronym of your project and the name of the, yes, please, thanks. And the name of the action, which is use CB, capacity building. The last information that you need to insert in this first page, let's say, is the part which is called direct personal costs. And the subtitle says that it's days. So we ask you for cost and then we ask you for days, and actually what we really mean and what you should encode in these lines is the functions of the people working for the project. Again, this will be mirrored in the budget pages per partner, and what you need to have in these pages is the number of days per function. So it's not costs, it's not days, it's functions. it will be easy for you because you will have access to this presentation. You can simply copy, paste, but copy what it's written for these instructions so that you are sure that the amounts are correct and that the approach for filling in this last information is correct. If you, colleagues, now can jump to the previous one, sorry, not to that one, to the previous one, the one with the, once more. Yes, thanks. What you see at the bottom of this slide is the list of the tabs of the template. Colors are meaningful. It's not just for carnival or for fun, are meaningful. Instructions are white. You are supposed to fill in the white sheets. But actually, the number of white sheets depends on not only the number of sheets, but also the content of the white sheets depends on what you encode in the green ones. Therefore, we can go down again to the number 60, the slide number 60. The next one, yes, thanks. So this is the second tab, the one which was green, and this is called beneficiaries. You have to list the beneficiaries in this table, but you cannot just add the lines as you want. You have to double-click the secret word for this green tabs is double-click, because double-click activates the orders, applies the actions and the changes that you need to do in this sheets. So you double click on apply changes, you double click on remove the beneficiaries if you want to delete a line, you double click on add a beneficiary if you want to add a line, and you apply changes double clicking. Once you have the number of rows that you need, then you can fill in the official name or the acronym of the different partners. So remember, double click. This is the important stuff. Second green tab is the one which is called work packages. Exactly the same functioning. So you double click to add a work package, you double click to apply the changes. If you need to remove a work package, you double click to remove the work package, just clicking on the cell twice, click, click. And then you add the label. The label, of course, depends on your project, depends on the work packages that you created in the content of the project and you filled in the B part, which is the description of the project. Of course, there must be a coherence between the work package in the description part and the work packages in the budget part. Next. So the only thing you must encode is the labels. Then you will see that the number of white pages numbered according to the number of partners that you have increased from 1 to as many partners as you encoded in the second tab. So you will have as many white sheets to fill in for each partner's budget, as many partners you encoded. Of course, needless to say, you need to encode as many partners as you encoded in the A part of the application. Everything is cross-linked, of course. If you need to add affiliated entities, you will need to add them here as well, and you will have another additional tab concerning this. Now arrives the complicated part of the story, because you will have one budget per beneficiary and one frame for each work package, which means that if you have 10 partners and if you have 10 work packages, you will have 100 frames of your budget to fill in. as maximum, because you can have partners which are not involved in all work packages. But this is to give you the dimension. This is to give you the idea of how much this can become time-consuming and cumbersome, let's say it, cumbersome. I say time-consuming, and let me say something which has nothing to do with the budget, but it's never enough. Don't submit the last minute. Please don't do it. We will not be able to save any of the applications because the tool is different. We have a different system, help desk, everything is different. You will not even be able to send the application. It's a new system. We don't know how it works. You don't either. Don't do this last minute. And take your time to fill in this budget, and because it takes time. I mean, for testing and understanding all the cross checks, it took time. Take it and start from the beginning. Start from now. Give yourself time enough to do it. In this part, you will see. Go back to the this one. Yes, you will see that you have different budget items, and for each budget item you will have to add a cost per unit. In some cases it's easy because you will have, as I told you here, where type 1, 2, 3 and 4 are indicated. You will have the list of the functions. You will have managers, secretaries, editors, webmaster, whatever. And you will have as unit the cost per day. So the unit is the day. In some cases, you have either for the travels, for the mobility, if you have some, it might be the day, or it might be the travel as a package. In some cases, for example, for the equipment, of course, you have as number of units, the number of pieces of equipment that you're buying. But if you're buying a PC, or if you're buying a printer, or if you're buying, I don't know, a lamp, the costs, of course, are different. So what you will have to do is to have an idea of how much each of these items will cost, and make an average of this cost, because the budget table allows you to input the number of pieces of equipment you will buy and the unit cost per equipment. Either you encode PCs because you need more than one, and then you multiply the lines of the equipment, or you will have to use the average. So, and there's another equipment, and the same for other goods. For the subcontracting, the unit, of course, is the number of contracts, but again, you might have different contracts with different suppliers whose cost is, of course, different. So if you only have a line for the subcontracting, input the number of the subcontracts that you have and the average cost of these contracts, so that the automatic total will end up showing the total that you have, summing different contracts with different amounts. I hope I was clear enough, but if I was not, Jose will try again to explain this concept during the question and answers time right after. Next slide. Yes, we have an automatic calculation of the depreciation cost which is allowed. So the depreciation cost is depends on the amount of the equipment, the cost of the equipment that you're buying, the lifetime of this equipment. Let's say that you buy a PC which costs 1,000 euros, that the lifetime of the PC is 3 years, that your projects last 24 months, and that you plan to use it for 50% for the project and 50% for something else. You encode all these information, the cost, the percentage of use, the percentage on the lifetime of the investment, so the percentage of use on the lifetime of the investment, and the system will calculate automatically the depreciation cost according to the formula. So no need to bother concerning the calculation of it, but you need to be careful in encoding correctly the amounts and the percentages of the use which are foreseen for your equipment. Once you reach the end white sheet, which is the summary of the next slide, please. The summary of the budget form. You will have the sum. You will have a line for each of the beneficiaries. You will have a total. You will have an automatically calculated maximum EU contribution, which is calculated on the basis of the maximum allowed percentage of contribution, which in our case is 80%. And then you need to manually encode the last line, only the last line. All the rest is already pre-filled in order to receive this green check that you see highlighted in yellow in the last column. It can be, it must be a green check and not a red cross, which means that there's something which doesn't match. The amount, the manually encoded amount, must be either lower than the maximum EU contribution or exactly the same. But as this maximum EU contribution is calculated automatically, and probably there are decimals which are hidden behind, it might be that if you just encode the same number as the column maximum EU contribution, you don't receive the green check. And you wonder why, because the amount is exactly the same. It has to do with the automatic decimals of the automatic calculations, which is behind all this exercises. So what we suggest very basically is that you click on the cell automatically calculated in maximum EU contribution, right click, you copy, and then you paste spatial values. So you only paste the values, and in this way you will have exactly the same amount and it will match perfectly. So this is the very practical tip from someone who has been really testing the template. It's not difficult. It takes time. It takes time to understand. It takes time to fill in. It takes time to do all the calculations behind in order to be able to encode a single amount, which might be the average of the cost of different items that you need to know before. So you need to have very clear in your mind the work packages, the people involved in the different work packages, and the people involved for each partner in the same work packages, because in the end you will have a budget sheet for each of your partners, and the list of costs will be divided in work packages. The summary, which is the thing that you see inside of you now, in front of you now, is this 3 lines, because we encoded 3 partners, so will be a number of lines corresponding to your partners. And this is very useful because remember that in the A part, the administrative part, there's a line which is called budget. There you have to copy manually. Once this is finalized and you're sure that you're not touching it anymore, you have to copy the amount per the total cost per each partner. You will have a table in the A part, again, as this one line per partner. You will encode this amount, the total cost, the gray 4th column. And the total in the A part should, of course, correspond to the total in this budget annex. As I told you before, start from this, finalize this, and just at the end, encode the budget amounts in the A part. If you have specificities, if you need to give explanations, if you need to justify the amounts that you put and you're not sure that it's automatically clear how it was calculated, why the amount is so high, so low, or something like this, there's a page in the end which is there for you to add notes. So I'll tell you, I'm looking for the specific name. The page is called Any Comments, and it's the last white tab in the template. If you have any comment, if you have any communication that you need to add concerning this budget, you can write it there. You can use this to make the calculations, I don't know, concerning, for example, the equipment. I will buy 2 PC, 1 camera, 1 video camera for I don't know what. These are the costs for each item. The average is this one, and this is the amount that I will input in the equipment for partner 1, work package 1. Even if you don't do it on this space, you will have to do this exercise out of the template. This is what you will need to do to be able to fill in correctly this budget. The last part of the application, so we said part A, administrative, part B is the annexes, the content of the project and the budget, which need to be added as annexes in the application. Part C concerns the correspondence between your application and the youth goals. There's a list of youth goals. So you tick the 3 that are a maximum of 3 that is relevant for your application. You check I hereby confirm that our organization is active in the field of youth self-declaration. So you need a maximum 4 ticks, and then you save the data, and this is already embedded in the application. You don't need to add anything. It's already part of the application itself. And you're done. It's finished. You will be able to submit. You validate, and if you validate and something is missing, you will see the validation errors that are copied here on the right part of the screen. For example, in this case, you will see that the part B, description of the project, and the detailed budget are the 2 compulsory annexes to be added to the application. You see that they are compulsory because they are red. There's a red line marking them. All the others, not only they are not compulsory, but we ask you not to add them, not to use them. They will be disregarded. So it's not worth to waste money in preparing things that will not be considered. In this case, as the 2 annexes are missing, we receive click invalidate, error validations. There's the 2, so the first one, the first mistake, error message says that the 2 annexes are missing, and it might be that there are other fields which have not been completed by mistake, and then you will have a link. You just click on the message and you will be redirected automatically to the relevant part of the application where you need to fill in, complete, add, something like this. Once your validation is correct, so you don't have error messages and you have a green message saying it's fine, then you can submit it. The good thing of the submission is that as long as you are before the deadline, even if your application has already been submitted, you can reopen it, edit, change the annexes, add whatever you want, and once you will revalidate and resubmit, the new version of your application will overwrite the previous application. So you will not risk to send, let's say, for example, as it was the case before, twice the same application, and then I would contact you asking you which one of the two was the relevant one. In this case, the system takes care of overwriting the applications, and therefore you're sure that there will be no doubts on which application is your final one. And then it's done. Your part is done, and ours start. The deadline for the submission is the 1st of July at 5 p.m. Brussels time. Brussels time. Please don't waste on your job just considering that it's 5 p.m. of your time. It's Brussels time. Study right now which is the conversion in time, and be sure that you're submitting on time. And as I told you before, submit before the last minute. Don't take the risk of an IT quack, of a last minute thing. Don't do it. It's too risky, and all your work would be wasted, really wasted. We will start on the 1st of July with all the eligibility checks, and we will take from July to October as evaluation period. So there will be a screening on the eligibility, and then a screening on the award criteria. The expert will be involved. The evaluation committee will take the decisions, and we plan to be super fast and be able to give you a feedback on the results. So you will receive the notification letters hopefully in January, and we will sign the grants with the selected projects in March. Why we're rushing? Because it's really rushing to give you information by beginning of 2022. There's a mistake in which we didn't spot so it's January 22. Why we are giving you the answers by January 22? Because the new call might come back to the normal schedule that used to have. So it might be that the next call 2022 will be published in October, and we'll have a deadline in February, March. We will try, and hopefully we will be able to give you a feedback on your application before the deadline for the next call, because we don't want to have an impact on the possibility that you have to correct your application and resend it for the next call, shouldn't it be successful for this one. It will be a rush. All the tools are different for you, but all the tools are different for us. So consider that we are all working in a new environment, and it's a challenge for all of us. I think I will leave the floor to Jose for this last useful information, and then we will open the question and answers time for all of you who sent the questions. Hope everything was clear. Please, Jose, for you. The floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. A very comprehensive presentation. We recognize that there is a lot to digest, At the same time, I must confess that if I was a little bit afraid at the beginning of this process when I discovered the tool and when I start with the colleagues to test it, I have to confess that it's quite straightforward. It's true that part B and the Excel table will require a change of mindset for this approach in work packages and deliverables and a budget which is built on these work packages and on the contribution of each of the beneficiaries to each of them. But you can download the Excel form, you can play with it. As Claudia said also, you will have the possibility to share the form with your partners via the role that you will give to their contact person. So I think that all in all, after a period of training and learning the new environment, you will be, I think, as pleased as us by this new approach. I'm not saying that this is for tomorrow, but certainly by the time of the deadline of 1st of July, you should become as fully experienced as we have been after having tested this for the last few weeks. So in any case, there are many information available, guidance documents, FAQs. For the time being, there is no FAQ, but we have collected more than, I think, 60 or 70 questions that you've sent us since we informed you about this information session, and we will address them in a minute. There are help desk, technical help desks, and for the content side, you use our own functional mailbox in our unit, where we will be able to hopefully to answer your questions more related to capacity building and less related to the tool itself. Okay, so good luck in this exercise, and as I said, we will be at your disposal to address further questions in between now and the 1st of July. Now we can move to the frequently asked questions. No, to the questions you've sent us for, as I said, since we have informed you about this session. It's not a surprise that many of the questions are related to the geographical coverage or the new constraints or the new eligibility rules in terms of partnership composition and who is able to apply or not. So clarifying again, the call is exclusively open to program countries, so all program countries, and to partner countries from region 1 and 3. Any other organization from another country than these 3 groups will be considered ineligible. Many questions have been raised, or will there be another call this year for covering Africa, Latin America, and Asia? I'm sorry to say that this would not be the case. And a question was raised also, can the agency or the Commission tell us why these regions were selected and not the others? I think that my colleagues Fabienne and Lena in the introduction have told you that this year is a particular year because of the COVID, because also of the fact that it's a new financial framework for the European Union, a new program, delays in the publication, and we are still waiting for the approval of the Erasmus Plus program. By the way, it's not yet approved, but it will be in a few days or weeks, we hope, but also of the financial instruments, and in particular, those that are covering the capacity building action. It has to be, you get to bear in mind, we've said it and I want to repeat it, that in the previous generation, in the previous program, capacity building in the field of youth was funded with the EU budget for education, youth and training. Now capacity building youth will be funded with the budget provided for the external cooperation, so for the external instruments of the European Union to support the development, the modernization in the partner countries. And in this context, the first budget that was made available this year was the one for the Western Balkans and the South Partnership. I'm not saying that in the future other regions will be open, but nevertheless this will be a discussion between the Education and Culture Directorate Director General of the Commission, with our colleagues from the external relation, from the neighborhood area, or for the development and cooperation area. So unfortunately, this year, only these two regions, no other calls, and the future is open. We will see if in 2022 the scope of the geographic coverage can be enlarged. There was a question concerned, there were several questions concerning the composition of the partnership, also not only on the geographical coverage, but on the role of the partners and so forth. So one question is, can project partners participate in more than one proposal? The answer is yes. The only constraint applies to the applicant. So an applicant, an organization can behave or can act as applicant only for one proposal. This organization can be partner in other projects and more than one. So the answer is yes. If you are a partner, you can be involved in several projects. If you are coordinator, you can submit one proposal on your behalf or as your role of coordinator, but you can also be involved in other proposals coordinated by other organizations. Can a participant, can an organization acting as applicant or partner apply to other Erasmus Plus calls? Yes, and if you are referring to the open calls that we have now for youth, i.e. cooperation partnerships or European Youth Together, indeed, there is no constraint in participating to 1, 2, or 3 of these open call in youth, or in fact in any other sector of the Erasmus Plus program. The program guide states that any organization, public or private, can working with or for young people can participate. And then we have a question: do universities fall into this group? Yes, I think that universities are either private or public organization. They work with youth. And then the eligibility criteria say that you get to work with youth outside the formal setting, which means that a university is there to deliver formal education, but may have other activities with the students that are beyond their curricula, beyond the formal education requirements. In this respect, a university can perfectly participate as long as the project doesn't aim to contribute to the formal education, but rather to the other tasks, the other objectives, the other activities of the university with its student. A question concerning the award criteria, I'm going to refer to it. In the impact session, we are asked to address each guiding points. There are 11 guiding points. Are we supposed to address them all? So this must be a misunderstanding, because I believe that for impact, there are 6 guiding points, and the guiding points are the bullet points which appear in the program guide. So I want to repeat by addressing this question on impact. When you will answer the award criteria under Part B, sections 1, 2, and 3, for each of the parts, relevance, quality of the project design, quality of the partnership, and impact, for each of these parts, please refer to the program guide and ensure that each of the bullet points addressed under each of these criteria are fully answered in your Part B. A question on the composition of the budget. Sorry for the organization. I'm moving from one aspect to another, but this is a question that could have been answered in the budget part. I will answer it now according to my list. Is there any requirement or any limits in the staff effort? And I think this question is raised because of former applicants or former beneficiaries who knew that from 2019 onwards there was the possibility to have staff cost in capacity building, but limited to 20% of the direct eligible cost. Here, neither for staff nor for any other category, there are ceilings. So it is for you to estimate your cost in terms of efforts, in terms of staff contribution for delivering the project. And this applies to all work packages. So there is neither an indication that the work package management should be limited to a maximum of 20% of the global cost of the project. There is no limitation in the value, I've already said it, of the subcontracting or of the equipment. And the same applies to personnel cost. Of course, when we will receive all the applications, we will look at them horizontally. We will also see that your budget is realistic as compared to previous projects that we have, as compared to statistical data that we have. And if suddenly, in order to deliver this project out of the grant requested of 300,000, you indicate that the staff cost will be, I don't know, 200,000, okay, we will have to look what is it worth, these 200,000 euros? What are the outputs that are related to this effort? If they are realistic, I mean, it's a big research project on the impact of COVID on youth population in the 5 or 6 countries covered, and the main activities will be research-oriented. Well, maybe we can envisage that, okay, this is normal because for the researchers, the only output is the effort, the intellectual output that is delivered. But we can also say this is exaggerated, and this, in this case, will penalize, of course, your project. So be realistic, be reasonable in the presentation, but again, there is no constraint. You are free to define your project or your budget as you wish. Yeah, one potential applicant is saying, I would like to share the project with my partners, and this is a very good decision, and it was raised by Christelle and by Geneviève. I think a project is not a one-man or one organization show. It is the result of a collective work, and what we expect to receive in our management tool is something that has been prepared in full cooperation by the partnership. Claudia said it, when you create your partners, when you create the contacts for your partners, these partners will have access to the environment. They will have access either in view mode or even in edit mode. So this is an interesting feature. It's a very positive feature for exchanging with your partner. It can also be a dangerous feature if you don't control who has access to your application, because the person who has access in edit mode has also the access to the submission button. As Claudia said, no harm done if you submit and then you want to modify, because you can still do that on the same application up to the last minute of the deadline. But nevertheless, please, when you define the main contacts in each of the partner organizations, when you prepare your proposal with your partners, ensure that those that have the access to the form are fully aware of the consequences of the act that they can do on your application. Composition of the partnership, we would need at least one partner from the Western Balkans or from the Third Mediterranean countries. I repeat, yes. Composition of the partnership, minimum 4 organizations, 1 organization from 2 different program countries, so we have 2 already, and at least 1 organization from a partner country, but there is a rule which says that partner countries have to be represented by at least as many organizations as a program country. So if you have only 1 partner country, you will need to have 2 organizations so as to fulfill this final rule. So minimum size, 4 organizations, 1 partner country, 2 program countries represented in the consortium. I already addressed a question which I know is lower in the questions we have received. Can we have a partnership with a Western Balkan organization or Western Balkan country represented and a South Mediterranean country represented? Yes, this is the same as was already in place for 7 years for the ACPALA sub-action of CBY. ACPALA covering Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Pacific. So there you could have an organization from Africa, one from the Caribbean, and one from Latin America. Well, here we have the same cross-regional approach. You can, if in the interest of the project, have a proposal that will include 1 or more partner countries from the 2 eligible regions. There were several questions on the annexes. I think we have answered that. The only 2 mandatory annexes are Part B and the Excel table. Part B, we have presented it in the award criteria and in this part on the work packages, and the Excel table has been presented extensively by Claudia. So these are the 2 mandatory annexes. All the other ones, they are either not applicable or not mandatory, and as I said earlier on, I don't recommend that you send them because in order to treat all proposals on an equal basis, the experts will not look at them. There was a question related to the annex also concerning the mandates. It's true that in the past, mandates were required, but only at grant agreement stage. So we are in a little bit in the same position here. Here you present a proposal. We assume that it's with the full endorsement of your partners, and at preparation of the grant agreement, we will ensure that this endorsement is fully validated by each of the future beneficiaries. Is the UK eligible? Unfortunately for my wife, it is not. UK is a partner country from region, I don't remember the number, I think it's 14, but it's not part of region 1, it's not part of region 3, and unfortunately it's not a program country anymore. The budget, Lena referred to the budget. There are two misleading information, and we apologize for that, in the page of the call in the portal. One information which appears in the budget button on the right-hand side of the screen, which says the available budget is 16,900,000 and something. As Lena said, this was the amount that we had foreseen in the work program that was prepared by the end of 2020. Unfortunately, as I explained, due to the financial instrument, we could not obtain this budget. The only available budget is the one which appears in the update section of the call page, i.e., I repeat, Region 1, Western Balkans, 3 million, Region 3, South Mediterranean countries, 5 million. Budget tables, which are the fields that need to be typed in, which are the fields that need to be calculated. My advice, do as Claudia did and as I did and as all the colleagues did. Download the part B, download the Excel table and start playing with it. You will, as coordinator, realize very quickly how it works, and you will be able, after that, to share it with your partners and allow them also to fill in, if necessary, their part for each of the work package they will be involved in. Co-funding rate. Is 80% the funding rate? Or does it mean that 80% of the grant will follow the lump sum model while the other 20% will be of a different funding model? No, this second part of the sentence is incorrect. 80% is the funding rate, which is used exclusively for defining what is the lump sum. Let's say you have submitted a proposal of for overall budget 400,000. Grant requested 300,000 because this is a maximum. As a result, you are below the 80% of co-funding. You will reach 75% of co-funding by the EU, 25% by you. Once we have assessed your proposal and decided, yes, this proposal deserves the grant of 300,000, this is the only value we are interested in. We will not look anymore at the 400,000. In other words, we will not look at your contribution. We won't even look at our contribution except from the perspective of the results and the implementation of the project. I hope this is clear. There is no anymore calculation of the final grant in relation to the co-funding percentage applicable to your project, contrary to what was the case in CBY in the previous generation. Is there any requirement on how the budget categories are split? I've already said that. No constraint, no ceilings, no minimum or maxima for equipment, staff costs, subcontracting, or whatever. The only value in these budget tables which is limited and in which you cannot even enter data because it's calculated automatically is your indirect cost. So you will see that when you start filling the different budget headings, the indirect costs will automatically start filling up it themselves because they will automatically calculate the share, the 7% share of everything you have encoded before. But for the rest, you are totally free to define according to the needs of your project, according to the needs of your partnership, the best articulation of the different budget headings. will the contract be signed? If the contract will be signed in April, does that mean that we can start April 2022, of course? Does that mean that we can start our activities and our expenditure in May 2022? Yes, indeed. For the time being, this remains a little bit vague, but if you want to prepare your proposal and your timetable, start from the end of the first quarter, I would tend to say. Start from the 1st of April. This is the reasonable time by which you will be informed and by which you will have your contract. If the delays occur at that time, we will revise with you your timetable so as to ensure that your project can be implemented, unfortunately with a few weeks of delay, but we don't expect delay. So here in the preparation part, target the 1st of April 2022 for the beginning of your activities. A few questions. Can a non-European partner country be the leader? I repeat, no. A non-European eligible partner country can only act as a partner. Can students be the target audience? Yes, students can be the target audience as long as the project is not focusing, again, their formal education in which they are. If they are pupils in school and there was a question, can we do this type of activities with pupils? You can do many activities with pupils outside the formal educational context, because for that you have school education as a specific strand of the Erasmus Plus program, or higher education as a specific strand of the Erasmus Plus program. So all young people are eligible, but the aim of the project is to provide them with tools, with competences, with skills, with support outside their formal educational context. And as Christelle said, those youngsters that are outside education, outside training, outside employment are also the ones that are at the heart of our objective and our youth actions. So here it was training of middle school students by youth worker in health and environmental education. Would that be eligible? If health and environmental education is not part of their curricula, is not part of their normal training program, yes, it is eligible. If it is part of a recognized education, part of the formal education, then we are entering into the area of other parts of the Erasmus Plus program. Are translation costs covered? Yes, they are covered. Now, eligible region, I will not repeat that because we have addressed them. Is it possible to combine voluntary activities with mobility and capacity building activities? So there you will most probably see that in the previous version of the work program, there were a clear distinction between capacity building activities and mobility activities. And for the latter, a differentiation between youth workers and volunteers. In the new program, in the new capacity building project and project design, we don't differentiate anymore between these two parts, which were largely linked to the way they were funded. It's a global exercise in which you put everything in accordance to the work package. So in answer to this question, as long as these activities fulfill the objective of the action, respect the eligibility criteria, they can indeed be implemented, but we don't distinguish anymore between capacity building activities and mobility activities. Okay? We had a technical problem with the project form and uploading the budget form. I'm really sorry for this colleague who sent this problem, because we have been downloading a lot of Excel forms from the platform without any problem. So I would invite this colleague to try again. And if this is not the case, send a message to the help desk or to the functional mailbox that is published on this on the screen for the time being, and we will check with you. As I said, 10-15 colleagues from our units have been using this new environment now for testing purposes and for training in order to provide you with the most comprehensive and accurate information, and we have not been confronted with difficulties with the Excel sheet. So try again and contact us if this continues. I think I've covered everything because the rest is again, addressing the geographical coverage. I'm turning to my colleague who is in front of the functional mailbox to see if she has received more questions. I guess she will send them to me. There is a last question, and I will give the time to my colleague to send me these questions now by email. She's just one meter from me, and we need to send that virtually from one laptop to the other. I will answer a question, the last one that I have on my list. What is the difference between a beneficiary and an affiliated entity? Affiliated entity, I would tend to say, don't bother with that unless you are an umbrella organization, or if you are an organization that works with different bodies that have a legal entity or a legal identity or not, it's irrelevant. In principle, we expect that in this type of projects, we have beneficiaries, and one of these beneficiaries is the applicant, okay, is the main beneficiary, the coordinator on behalf of its partners. Now, if some of these organizations work as umbrella organizations, they have, let's say, you are an association in the field of youth, your members are located in all in all program countries, and you would like to involve the intellectual outputs or the facilities from one of your affiliated organizations. In this case, this organization will not have it will be attached to you. It will be able to claim costs in accordance to your budget, but these costs will be associated to you. If you don't put it in principle, the costs from this affiliated entity would not be considered eligible. This is a little bit contradictory because we are applying a lump sum approach, but this is the principle. Only beneficiaries can use the grant. If one of the beneficiaries worked with some of its affiliated entities, some of its members, without wishing to include it as a partner in the project, then you will use this option of affiliated entity. They will appear in the budget sheet as Claudia said it. They will be attached to the budget form of the beneficiary concerned. Once again, it's a facility, but I would expect that for 90%, 95 or 98% of our consortia, this functionality does not apply and doesn't need to be used. I would recommend that you use a partnership fully with all its partners rather than using the affiliated entity. If you need it, please don't hesitate to send us further questions if you consider that you need clarification. Yeah. Push on the mic. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to come in on this issue of affiliated entities. If you're interested in it's a legal term. If you're interested in understanding what the definition is as used in the European Commission, you can look up the financial regulation. So the EU Commission's financial regulation, and you type in affiliated entities and you'll see the definition there. It's about having a legal or economic bonds with your branches, and that's why José is talking about umbrella organizations and branches and so on. But please be our guest and look up the legal terms. I would follow the advice of José and look at your partnership.
I have still here some 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 questions, so I hope I'm discovering them at the same time as you. I will not take long and maybe a couple of minutes beyond our normal schedule. As I said, the functional mailbox is there. These questions, their formalized answers will be published in the upcoming days on the platform, but I address them now. I wanted to ask about the mobility possibilities with South Africa and South America, with Africa and South America. Availability to travel, unfortunately, not in capacity building use for the time being and for this call. You will have to look at other options, and I invite you to, in particular, to look in the websites of our colleagues from the external cooperation, the external actions from the EU, where you may find there is an important interest in Africa this year. Due to the delays, again, we were not able to address Africa for the time being, but you will see that in the upcoming call 2022, more options will be open. I'm not saying in youth, but maybe in other sectors like in higher education, for instance, most certainly. How to justify that applicant is an NGO working in the field of youth? Well, I assume that you will present yourself. We will probably, or the expert will go on your website to see if you are working in the field of youth. And then you have statutes, I guess, of your organization, and we may ask if we have doubts, can you send us the mandate and statutes of your organization to ensure that within the objective of your organization you work indeed with youth. But I think it's quite straightforward. We want to be comprehensive and inclusive. And you remember that the objective of the program, one of the key driving priorities of the program is inclusion. We are not here to say, okay, your involvement in youth is marginal, you are out. So we will welcome all organizations dealing with the youngsters as long as their activities are eligible with our program. What about cross-regional cooperation? One leader from Greece, one partner from Italy, one partner from Egypt, one partner from Bosnia-Herzegovina. So you have 2 program countries, each represented by an organization. You have at least one program country, one partner country represented by an organization. Since you have 2, you fulfill the last criteria, which is to have at least as many organizations for partner countries than program countries. One from Egypt, one for Bosnia, and 2 from program countries, so you are fully eligible. Okay, other regions, I'm sorry, I'm not going to repeat again. In the presentation, you state that the Excel form and the budget should be filled in and uploaded as a PDF file. However, the system doesn't accept different formats than Excel. I think this is a misunderstanding, and I'm sorry if Claudia said that, because I have uploaded many forms indeed in test, and I confirm that what you are saying here, the system doesn't accept different formats. You need to save it in Excel. We will review that if ever the statement was made. You have, as far as I know, and again, we are discovering as same as you, but as far as I've done my testing correctly, this had to be uploaded in Excel. In relation to the general participation of the parts of the world, blah, blah. Could a youth group do anything about it, expressing their views so as to say how important it is for them? Of course, if you want to advocate in favor of a broader geographical coverage, please feel free to do so, and with our blessing. We are here to support the youth actions in Erasmus Plus, and we, to be honest, were as frustrated as you, but understanding the particular circumstances that this year we could not cover other regions. So don't hesitate to lobby in favor of other regions, to our agency, to the Commission as a whole in the education and culture sectors, but also to the DGs that will provide the money, i.e. the DG in charge of the enlargement and the neighborhood, and the DG in charge of international cooperation with the rest of the world. We are all supporting, and we are all crossing fingers that next year or before the end of the program, to say it with less optimistic views, your voice can be heard, and the geographical coverage can come back to what it was in the previous program. Serbia and North Macedonia are geographically on Western Balkan, but also as program country. You are right. You have to count them in the category in which they appear in the program guide. So, in fact, having a project with Serbia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Kosovo will be a project exclusively implemented in the Balkans, but which would fulfill the obligation to have at least 2 program countries and as many organizations from the partner country covered. So this would be indeed a fully embedded Western Balkan countries with 2 program countries involved. If we have 3 program partners, Serbia, Latvia, Spain, and do we have to have 2 additional partners from 2 different Western Balkan countries. No, you have 3 program partners, so you will have 3 organizations from program countries. There, if you have only 1 partner country, let's say it's Kosovo, you will need to have at least 3 organizations from Kosovo to fulfill the final criteria, which is the balance in terms of number of organizations, the balance, or at least the focus which is put in priority to the partner countries, ensuring that they are at least on an equal footing with the program countries. Please, I would like to know if the Republic Dominicana and Chile can participate. I will not repeat it enough. No, unfortunately not this year. Applicants can only be program countries, correct. An organization in Montenegro cannot be an applicant, correct. An organization in Tunisia or Palestine cannot be an applicant, correct. We'd like to have a clarification concerns the maximum amount for the EU contribution to be inserted in the budget form. We participate to the info day, but it is not clear if we have to insert the maximum amount, even if our budget built on actual cost is lower. In addition, yeah, I mean, I go back to the summary table of the Excel sheet, the instruction one, at the bottom of which you get to indicate the maximum grant you apply for and the percentage of funding. If you know already that your budget will be 160,000 overall cost, you can apply yourself the 20% to 160,000, so 32,000 if my memory doesn't fail me. So 160 minus 32, 128, that would be your maximum grant. But it doesn't make any harm if you put, let's say, 200,000. In fact, this figure there is to control that at the end, when you have filled in everything, you are not arriving, if we apply 80%, above the 300,000. So it's just a control possibility in this instruction page. I would recommend for this case, for you who send the message, let's put 160,000 as maximum grant, and then I fill in my table, and I realize that, in fact, I will have enough with 128, as I just said before. So it is control over there. Yeah, it's between 100, sorry, and 300. 150,000, I'm sorry, Lena is telling me that the minimum, but again, go back to the program guide, and as you see, we are also learning by doing. There is a minimum value of the grant, in which is supposed to be 150,000. I think that Christelle said 100 earlier on. Sorry, I was also confused and thought it was 100. So the minimum is 150. Please refer to the program guide to ensure that. Okay. 2 last questions, and then will there be a record on this event? Yes, as soon as we have finished, we will go back to the office. We will ask our webmaster to provide you with the link. But if you go to this same link, keep the link in your favorites. If you go to this same link, as soon as you finish the session, maybe in an hour or 2 or by the end of the day, you will already see our recording. So you will be able to follow it with more time and making pauses and understand exactly what we meant with all these detailed explanation. Is it clear now if an enterprise and the sole proprietor is eligible? As long as it is a legal entity recognized, and this is the case, you are eligible, and as long, of course, as this enterprise fulfills or enters within its objectives to the objective of the action, i.e. your activities must be related to the support of the policy objective of the program and of the youth sector in particular. Okay, I will not take more questions. It's 38. We have gone over 8 minutes on our schedule. There is still 6 weeks between now, or 5.5 weeks between now and our upcoming deadline. We are at your disposal in the agency, myself, Lena, my colleagues, the colleagues from the help desk, the technical one, but also the content one will be able to accompany you. don't be afraid. You will learn a new tool. You will learn how to drive a new vehicle to allow you to submit proposals. As you saw in the introductory pages from Claudia, many programs from the European Union are now embedded into this portal, and it will still increase. So once you are familiar with it, you will find your projects on a regular basis. This tool is used also for monitoring. So it's not only an application tool, it's a contracting tool, a monitoring tool, and a reporting tool. So you will not need to move from one application to another, from one portal to another, from one environment to another. This will be your environment for your capacity building project during all its existence, as well as for all your centralized Erasmus Plus projects or any other project that you may be involved in the field of research or environment and so forth. As you saw in the screen that Claudia showed you, there are many programs that are there. You can even find new calls in which you would be interested in. So for the colleagues who are looking for Africa or Latin America, go to this front page, type in the open call research terms like Africa or Latin America or cooperation, and maybe another service of the Commission is offering something. I'm sorry to say that we, for the time being, the Western Balkans and the South Mediterranean region were the only ones we could open early this year. And I repeat what Lena said, we are one of the only actions which already opens cooperation with the rest of the world. All our colleagues from higher education, for instance, have to wait 2022 to see a first call for capacity building. So yes, please, I give the floor now to Lena to do the final word, and I wish you all the best in the submission of your proposal, preparation and submission.
Thank you, José, and thank you to the whole team for all these preparations. I also want to thank all of you who has followed this info session. There's one thing I just wanted to clarify, because it went a bit fast here at the end with the question and answer session. And that is what is the maximum and the minimum EU grant per project that we can allocate. So I'm sitting here with the program guide in front of me, and I cite directly that the EU grant per project can vary or will vary from a minimum of 100,000 euros and a maximum of 300,000 euros. So this is the funding that we can give you, minimum 100,000 and maximum 300,000. We have actually discussed that internally quite a lot. It's different from the previous rules that we had for CBY, and maybe that's why we sometimes are a bit confused yet. But if you should be in doubt, again, as my colleagues have said, and I will repeat that as well, please consult the program guide. So we will give a minimum of 100,000 and a maximum of 300,000 as the EU grant per project. The total cost, you then have to look at the additional 20%. Thank you very much to all of you, and we hope you will have a good time to prepare your projects, and we are looking forward to receiving your applications. Again, most importantly, please keep the deadline. It's the 1st of July, latest at 5 o'clock, but it's good to send in your projects, to submit your projects earlier than 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you very much.